So if you have followed this channel for the past however many years, you have probably noticed my disdain for old school football mentality, and that includes the phrasing, the idioms, just the overall sayings that old school football people like to bring up. And my number one thing is momentum. Don't understand it. I will fight it for the rest of my life. If that's my burden to bear, I will do so. Another one in football is downhill runner. He's a downhill runner. I guess I know what you mean, but I don't see why that would be advantageous to you as the game is played on a flat surface. So the whole idea of it sounds silly to me. Open up the playbook is another one. They act like you have to do this certain array of plays or you have to run the ball a certain amount before you can open up the playbook. Like, no, a certain subset of plays is really just always available to you. You don't need to unlock them. This isn't like a video game or something like that. So you get the point. But one thing that people like to say, really across all sports, and it's not just limited to football, is survive and advance. And that is probably very appropriate for the Bills' win over the Dolphins on Sunday. They survived. Didn't always look that way. It looked like the Bills were absolutely going to boat race the Dolphins for a while. They go up 17-0 on 4 possessions. Even the first drive of the game where they were stopped by a turnover on downs, they moved the ball well. So it looked like the Bills were just going to run the Dolphins right out of town. But there's another thing that I like to bring up on this channel, and it's that the Bills are the best suited team to beat the Bills. And as long as they don't puke all over themselves, I feel like that's something I've said a lot, they're usually in pretty good shape. When they've lost this year, it's something that they've done pretty frequently. And they did it this past Sunday against the Dolphins. They just happened to get away with it, probably because the quarterback really wasn't good enough to beat them, and the coaching staff didn't know what down it was, or couldn't get the right personnel in there however many times to avoid penalties, to avoid taking timeouts. But going back to the beginning, like I said, the Bills were up 17-0. And the Dolphins weren't really showing anything. And then there's a special teams area, you kick the ball out of bounds. So a couple first downs, the Dolphins get in the field goal range, no harm, no foul. The Bills start going right down the field again, maybe like 3 plays, they're near midfield or in that area. They throw a deep ball interception intended for John Brown that Xavier Howard picks off, and he returns it 50 yards. Puts them in nice field position. They get a first down or 2. They kick another field goal. The Bills go 3 and out. They allow a 50-yard punt return into field goal range. The Dolphins get maybe a first down, maybe went 3 and out, and they kick another field goal, and it's 17-9. And I think along the way, there's like a 3rd and 18 conversion. There's a 4th and 8 conversion on a check down to Jeff Wilson, and he breaks a tackle that converted for 4th and 8. Like, it just inexcusable. But all in all, my gripe really wasn't necessarily with the defense, at least in this sequence. There's obviously certain plays that could have got them off the field that they didn't make, but the offense gets the ball back, down or up 17-9. There's another interception right off of Cole Beasley's chest, bounces right to Javon Holland, and he returns it to the 18-yard line. A couple plays later, the Dolphins are in the end zone, and suddenly it's a tie game. Suddenly it's 17-17. The Bills were fortunate enough to go down the field and kick a field goal before the half, so it's 20-17 at half. And I guess I'm going to fast forward here a little bit. After your first play in the 3rd quarter, you're losing because it's a sack fumble by Allen. That is just mind-blowing that you're down 24-20. You have 3 times the yards, or at least double the yards, maybe 3 times the yards, 3 times the first downs, double the time of possession. It's almost like the script of the first Miami game in week 2. It's obviously not exactly the same, but I think you can draw the similarities, draw the comparisons. You can't believe that they're losing. Still, in that moment, I have a buddy that I text with during the games. Not always the Bills games even. This isn't exclusive to the Bills games, but we like to do this thing where we'll text each other, hey, who would you rather be? And even after the Dolphins went up 24-20 on the fumble return touchdown, we both agreed that we would still rather be the Bills. The Bills had moved the ball pretty well with the exception of these past couple of drives. Like, they have shown that they've been able to move the ball, and the Dolphins still have Skylar Thompson. I mean, you fast forward that a little bit, the Bills obviously battled back with a couple of touchdown drives. off of a Skylar Thompson interception, one off of Skylar Thompson interception. Dolphins, in their own right, battled back. They got their one good drive of the game when they needed it, made it 34-31. The Bills punted back to them 2 times, and they had 2 drives to tie or take the lead on offense. And it very quickly became, I'm not sure who I'd rather be. Even when the Bills punted it back to the Dolphins the last time, we texted the same thing. Who would you rather be? And we both still said the Bills, but it was concerning. And the Dolphins got a couple of first downs. They hit I think a 25-yard pass to Waddle, and it was like alarms going up. It's starting to approach the territory where I would rather be the Dolphins in this situation. But fortunately, something that I alluded to earlier in the video, the Dolphins were just super irresponsible with their timeouts. It was 4th down, 4th and 1, and apparently everyone in the stadium knows it's 4th and 1 except the Dolphins head coach. At least that's the story that he's going to go with. Seems strange to me. The Dolphins were foolish with their timeouts earlier in the half. They used them for clock management purposes, and I think that is foolish in a tight game, which the game was tight all throughout the second half. You need to be responsible with your timeouts. You should anticipate that you're going to have to use them defensively, in terms of stopping the clock, whether you need that on your final drive or, like I said, defensively to preserve time. And they weren't able to do that. Then they're out of timeouts when they get to what ends up being their final drive. And they think it's a different down, so they put different personnel in the game. Then they got to rush them off, get the 4th down personnel off there or out onto the field. And, they end up taking a delay of game penalty. They took delaying games and false starts seemingly all day. And that, to me, is primarily on coaching. You might think that an inexperienced quarterback like Skylar Thompson might be the reason for some of that, but McDaniel's got to take the fall for that. Whether it's true or not that he knew it was 4th down doesn't really matter. It's his fault regardless. So, the Dolphins kind of, they had their chance. They had their shot at the Bills. They were able to shoot their shot, and they blew it. Because the Bills really kind of tried to give them the game at certain points. And I wish I could kind of understand if there's a disconnect maybe between Josh Allen and Ken Dorsey, the offensive coordinator. I don't like when people criticize the play calling because you don't know the plays that are called, but it was strange to see just shot play after shot play after shot play. Allen's average depth of target was like 15 yards. So the whole offense seemingly was just like bombs. And once in a while, do I want to see Josh just throw a slant? I remember one in the first quarter to Diggs. I believe it was on the first drive. I was like, yes, the Dolphins are blitzing. Dolphins had hide their blitzes all day. The Dolphins lined up. They're like, hey, we are coming after you. We know we need to do this, and we're coming after you. And Josh hit a slant there. I was like, yes, he's going to do that. Perfect. And then the occasional deep shot, just because he knows he's going to get single coverage. But he saw single coverage and just kept taking deep shots or deep posts or deep whatever. And a lot of it worked. So I don't want that to go too far in one direction, one way or the other. I want to find the happy medium because there obviously is some trade-off there. If you are just taking the checkdowns, which fans on Twitter have been clamoring for lately, take the check down, take the check down. He didn't do it, obviously, on Sunday. Nyheim Hines was the only running back that was targeted. Like Cook, Singletary, not even targeted. Hines only had 1 reception for 7 yards on 2 targets. So he was taking the deep plays to Diggs and the deep plays to Davis, even when Diggs was taken away, because Diggs had like almost 100 yards in the first quarter, it seemed, and he was pretty quiet the rest of the game, but playoff Gabe showed up. Like, he just started taking him to Davis, started taking him to Shakir. The Bills left a bunch of deep yards out on the field. Shakir had a ball in the first half that ended up, I believe it led to the 3-and-out, that he probably should have hauled in. And that's, 50 yards left out on the field. There was a Diggs touchdown in the sideline corner that he miraculously got 2 feet down, but because the ball slid down his arm a little bit, incomplete. Like, the Bills left yards and touchdowns out there on the field, and Josh Allen still threw for 352 yards on 23 completions. So I don't want the deep passes to be entirely gone. I guess I just want a little bit of the short game. I think it will just go a long way. Like, I'm not really complaining about the offense. They scored 34 points. Their primary issue was a little bit of pass protection, but again, the Dolphins were just sending the blitz all day long. They got to him 7 times. But the other issue was obviously turnovers. Josh threw 2 interceptions. He fumbled 3 times. Fortunate to only lose 1. Naheem Hines fumbled a punt. They were able to recover that. Like, they tried. They gave the Dolphins extra possessions, and basically like, here's your opportunity. Come beat us or make this a game. The Dolphins made it a game, but they didn't feel super threatening. They left however many yards on the field. They had a bunch of drops too. I mean, Skylar Thompson went 18 of 45 for 220. That's a lot of incompletions, but Jalen Waddle left, 120 yards on the field? At least. A couple of drops, one on the first drive. I mean, they're taking points off the board there. Tyreek Hill had 7 catches on 15 targets. He had a couple drops for first downs as well. So I don't know what you want to attribute that to. I thought the Bills were pretty decent in coverage. I thought their recovery speed was very good, Tre'Davious White included, because those receivers got behind him pretty well. And if Skylar Thompson was able to kind of put those balls in front of Waddle, in front of Hill, some of them were fine. Like the first one to Waddle, I don't even know why he jumped. But Trey did a great job on another one up the sideline that I think a better pass would have been a problem. But Trey, great recovery speed. I thought Kaiir Elam had one of his best games as a pro after Dane Jackson left with an injury. Apparently Dane could have went back in, but Elam steps in and gets an interception himself. So that was encouraging, because you really would love to see your first round pick step up and just kind of grab a hold of that number 2 cornerback role and just, not let it go. Anyway, is that about it for Miami? I feel good wrapping it up, because it seemed like for a minute there we were going to get Jacksonville, another Florida team, coming to Buffalo in January. But the Ravens gave the game away, much in the same sense that the Dolphins might have. Not in the same manner, of course, because despite the fact that the Bengals got out to the 9-0 lead, the Ravens led at halftime 10-9. It's 17-17 after the third quarter. And then the Ravens are driving for the lead with, the first third of the fourth quarter here. The first third of the fourth quarter, that sounds weird. The first 5 minutes of the fourth quarter. And then their quarterback, Tyler Huntley, their undersized, smaller quarterback, obviously, just calls his own number and tries to dive over the pile from like the 2-yard line, the 1.5. And the ball gets punched away, 98-yard touchdown the other way. And, that sort of felt like the nail in the coffin right there. They had a couple opportunities to tie the game, unable to do it, took their sweet time at the end, which was frustrating, to say the least. Because I think that most Bills fans were rooting for the Ravens in that sense. They would have rather seen the Jaguars than the Bengals. I don't think that's unreasonable. It's not necessarily a fear of the Bengals. You just want the easier matchup. Of course you do. The Bengals are a tougher matchup for anybody. They went to they represented the AFC in the Super Bowl last year. And that's kind of why it's a little bit confusing to me that maybe they're viewed of, I don't want to say like a darling, but they're like the sexier pick to beat the Bills this week. And I don't know. Like the Bills were the darling a couple years ago, and the Bengals were the darlings last year. They beat the Raiders, the Titans, and then go into Arrowhead and beat the Chiefs, and bang, they're in the Super Bowl, and they had a really good look at winning it. But so that was their darling year. Now they're like the Bills are like at the top of the power rankings all year, while the Bengals started 0-2 or 4-4 or whatever they were, and now they haven't lost since mid-season. So it's I don't know. I know that they have to have something to talk about on these talk shows. It's just annoying. It really is just kind of annoying. Again, power rankings don't matter. Skip Bayless's opinion doesn't matter. Nick Wright's opinion doesn't matter. Stephen A. Smith's opinion doesn't matter. I don't know. This comes back to my Buffalo versus everybody thing. I would just like to hear some type of confidence in the Bills, because I feel like I've just heard way too much like, who would you rather trust? Or who do you trust more? Who would you rather have, Joe Burrow or Josh Allen? And there's just a lot of Joe Burrow in that, and they can both be amazing. Fortunately, you don't have to pick between one or the other because one team has one and the other team has the other, and it just seems like a stupid conversation. But again, I know they have to have something to talk about. What it sounds like is just two of the best teams, this matchup I mean, is just two of maybe the 3 or 4 best teams remaining. Does that sound familiar? Last year, the Bills played the Chiefs in the divisional round, same round. Two of probably the best teams remaining in the playoffs had to face each other in the divisional round because of seeding. And I know that sounds weird because the Chiefs didn't even go on to even make the Super Bowl, but at the time, it felt right. And, outside of the Chiefs, these kind of feel like the next 2 best teams. Sure, the Eagles can be considered in there as well, and the 49ers, of course. But they're not playing each other. It's just the Bills and the Bengals. So how would I describe this matchup for me? I mean, I'm excited. I'm very excited, but I'm nervous. There was nerves even entering last week, even though I felt pretty confident that the Bills were going to dispose of the Dolphins. I was nervous pacing at the game for sure, but it's a different type because I'm feeling it going into it. Just the overall feeling of knowing that this season could be over at any moment. That is nervous. Like Sunday, that could be it. Not only could it be the last home game, it could be it. And then we have to wait another 7-8 months to try this climb again. Meanwhile, all the teams behind us are getting a little bit better. Like the Bengals are a problem. The Chiefs continue to be a problem. The Dolphins gave you a run for their money without their starting quarterback. Like these are things you have to think about. So you have to capitalize on these windows. So the Bills need vintage Josh. Vintage. He's 26 years old. But he can't be turning the ball over. Sean McDermott said it after the game. He said it in his early in the week press conference. This has been addressed in-house. They know that this is not, championship caliber football. Saying it is one thing, doing it is another. You would think that turnovers are somewhat easy to limit. The deep ball to Brown, it looked like Brown maybe stopped on his route a little bit. Hard to say. The pick to Beasley off the chest, you'd like to see him catch that, of course. The fumble, entirely on Josh. I guess this is kind of just a little side story, I guess. My mom doesn't really watch. She watches. My mom watches. She doesn't fully really understand football, but she likes to watch. And she loves Josh Allen, of course. All girls' moms, all of Buffalo does. So she asks me after the game or earlier in the week, why was Josh playing like that? What was going on? She just wants my opinion, my explanation. And my honest opinion is, well, he played really well, actually, for most of the game. They scored 34 points. He had 350 passing yards. Those are very good numbers. I think the problem with him sometimes is that he knows how good he is, or he has seen himself do just about everything there is to be done on the football field. So that he's fought off blitzing corners and even, blitzing linemen, big linemen. He's fought them off and spun out of there and stiff-armed them and jumped over them. He's done it all. So when he sees a guy coming at him, he's like, I can get away from this guy. And then the guy knocks the ball loose. And before you know it, the ball's in your end zone. And it's 7 points for the other team. So it comes down to a little bit of responsibility, accountability, a bunch of other abilities. He has all the abilities, but this responsibility and accountability are 2 big ones. So this Bills-Bengals matchup, I want to obviously get to it. I know I'm taking up a lot of your time here. My videos have just been running a lot longer this year. I don't know why. I feel like, do I just have more to say? Am I rambling more? I don't know. Tell me. A lot of people think it's going to come down to, it obviously comes down to the quarterbacks. Part of what, comes down to the quarterbacks is the offensive line. So the Bills have not been great in pass protection. Obviously, they just gave up 7 sacks. The Bengals look a little suspect in pass protection, not because their linemen are bad, but because their linemen are injured. So La'el Collins tore his ACL a few weeks ago. He's obviously not going to play. In the Ravens game, Jonah Williams, the left tackle, sustained a dislocated kneecap, so he's not going to be able to play. Their free agent acquisition, Alex Kappa, also week to week, doesn't look like he's going to be able to play. So they're hurting on the offensive line on both ends. and up the middle. So that's an opportunity for the Bills pass rush. Like, the Ravens made Burrow uncomfortable. Burrow didn't look fantastic in that game. He went 23 of 32 for 209 and a touchdown. He was sacked 4 times. And he was pressured. Like, he was sacked 4 times. But he faced a lot of pressure. The Ravens got there. The Bills have to find a way to do that as well, to make Burrow uncomfortable. If you let him stand in that pocket, he will pick you apart. He is good enough and he has good enough weapons to find holes in zones, to exploit single coverage. He's good enough. Jamar Chase is good enough. T. Higgins is good enough. Tyler Boyd is good enough. They love to hit those shallow posts and those quick slants to Chase. It's like, oh, your linebacker's blitzing? I'm just going to hit Chase on a slant. Or a quick post to T. Higgins. They love it. Quick ins, posts, all that stuff over the middle, right over the linebackers. Burrow's big enough to get it there, strong enough. It's not, they're not deep throws, but they're just all smart enough to figure that out. It's one of their go-to plays, honestly. I'm like I said, I'm nervous. I'm nervous because I think that talent-wise, at least on offense, this is probably the best team the Bills play all season. They obviously didn't get a chance to play them in Week 17 due to the game being postponed. They only played about 9 minutes. They traded scoring drives. So, I mean, I do kind of expect more of that. I think that there will, I don't think they're going to approach the game the same defensively. There's obviously very little film on each team. I just... like I said, I'm excited, nervous. I don't know if that's if there's a specific word for that. It's just not coming to mind right now. But I do like the Bills. Betting likes the Bills. I know 70% of bets are on the Bengals, but 73% of the money is on the Bills. So that means the big bets are going towards the Bills with the spread. So the spread started at 3.5 or 4. It's gone to about 5.5 or 6. So the smart bettors, the savvy bettors, are betting the Bills. I'm not really sure what to make of that. I think that's kind of encouraging. I think that maybe a 6-point spread, 5.5 or 6-point spread, says that the Bills win this game 3 out of 5 times, maybe even 2 out of 3, 60 to 66% of the time. That's kind of an estimate. But, that doesn't have to make any type of difference. Just hope that the Bengals hand the ball off a lot. Anytime they give the ball to Joe Mixon, honestly, that's a win. I know that he is capable of beating you a little bit, but, he's like a 4 yards per carry type of guy. Just because he scores a lot of touchdowns and he's a nice fantasy player doesn't mean you're not doing the other team a favor by giving him the ball. On defense, I'm a little bit concerned about the pass rush with Sam Hubbard and Trey Hendrickson. Trey Hendrickson, who tried to injure Josh Allen. Don't forget that. He tried to injure Josh Allen in the first meeting, in that first 9 minutes on the first drive. He very clearly falls down, sees where he is, pauses, hesitates, continues to roll, and Allen sustained a minor ankle injury on the play. Dirty. So I'm not happy with him, but they have some other nice players in Logan Wilson at middle linebacker, Jesse Bates at safety, Mike Hilton, who they acquired at corner, Cam Taylor-Britt. They're a nice team. This is a test. The Bills are battle tested. I'm gonna pick the Bills. I've talked my way into this, despite the fact that I think that the Bengals have more weapons. I think the home field gives the Bills a bit of an advantage. The DeMar Hamlin angle maybe gives the Bills a bit of a motivational advantage. I know that sounds silly, but you just can't manufacture that type of energy. I'm hoping he's at the game. Maybe they'll come out of the tunnel with him. See how that goes. So I'm going to pick the Bills, but I think it's close. I don't think they cover. I'm picking the Bills close. Let's go with 27-26. Bills over Bengals. Guys, hit me up. Hit me up in the comments. Hit me up on Twitter. My Twitter handle and YouTube username are the same. Let me know how you're feeling about this weekend. Let me know how you're feeling about the Dolphins game, how you're feeling about the idea that this could be it. Maybe we'll get a home game next week. Duval. We're all Duval fans this weekend, right? And we'll at least have that information going into to Sunday, whether we're going to be going to Atlanta or potentially have a home game against Jacksonville. I think that would provide a nice advantage with the crowd as well. Till then, enjoy your weekend. As always, above all else, go Bills.